Picture this. It's 1940 and you are a young, optimistic farmer in the Midwest. The Great Depression has just ended and the Dust Bowl appears to finally be over. You and your family are full of hope that the upcoming decade will bring good fortune and new opportunities. As an American citizen, you accept and embrace the challenges that are thrown before you. You realize that it is up to you and your generation to help facilitate the nation's recovery from this disaster, to prevent a reoccurrence, and to ensure a brighter future for years to come. It seems that everybody has a plan, or an idea of what they're supposed to do in their lifetime. In my opinion, each and every one of us should have the desire to want to help better our environment and help our country grow. Now obviously, we're not all like the young 1940s farmer, who is determined to increase the agricultural productivity of the United States. However, we all should want to help conserve our land by doing our part and preventing the reoccurrence of this natural disaster. The Dust Bowl originally started due to dry, loose soil as well as the lack of rain. Poor farming techniques in agriculture also contributed to the Dust Bowl. Most farmers at the time were growing wheat. Farmers had to plow deeply into the ground to plant the wheat, which in turn loosened the soil. This type of farming was sufficient if there was plenty of rain, but when the drought started, it made the soil more susceptible to the fierce windstorms, resulting in the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl lasted about a decade long and was partially caused by poor agricultural practices. These careless farming activities, combined with drought and high winds, contributed to the Great Depression. The Dust Bowl occurred due to several conditions. Year after year, farmers planted the same crops with no crop rotation. Thus, the soil eventually turned into sand. In addition to the drought, there were windstorms that blew the dust for hundreds of miles. The Dust Bowl lasted far longer than it should have. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president. He immediately took steps to help the nation recover from this disaster. Congress came up with the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, which stabilized the banking industry and restored the people's faith in the banking system by putting the federal government behind it. They also passed the Emergency Farm Mortgage Act, which provided $200 million for refinancing mortgages for people such as the young 1940s farmer who were facing foreclosure. But this was only the beginning of the solution for this drastic problem. The blowing dust storms that blasted the Great Plains in the 1930s are one of the iconic results of the Dust Bowl. In March 1935, one of President Roosevelt's advisors testified before Congress about the need for a better soil conservation plan. Ironically, dust from the Great Plains blew all the way to the nation's capital that very week. Congress came up with the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, which developed extensive conservation programs that helped to retain topsoil and prevented irreparable damage to the land. Conservation plans such as these helped this young 1940s farmer to incorporate new farming techniques such as strip cropping, terracing, contour plowing, cover crops, and crop rotation, which helped replace the topsoil that had been lost. The conservation plans weren't finished there. In 1939, there was extensive work of replowing land into furrows, planting trees in shelter belts, and other conservation methods that led to a 65% reduction in the amount of soil blowing. Later that fall, the rain finally came, bringing an end to the droughts. In the next following years, the country was pulled out of the Dust Bowl, and the Great Plains were once again golden with wheat. Picture this. It's 2014, and you are the grandson of the young 1940s farmer. You have just taken over the family farm. You realize that it is now your responsibility to follow in your ancestors' footsteps by preventing the reoccurrence of this natural disaster. You now know this is attainable by utilizing proper conservation practices, because conservation was the key to getting out of the Dust Bowl, and that these same conservation techniques will help prevent a reoccurrence. Now it is up to you. Will you help lead our generation to walk the same paths our ancestors did? The future looks bright, and now it is up to us to uphold the prosperity of our nation for generations to come. Thank you.